this is the definition of luxury doesn't always have to be expensive. So right here we have the Jaecoo J7 SHS, and I'm CJ from 6 Gear Wheels. Right from the get-go, you know what, it's very simple to tell that this vehicle's design was actually influenced, or rather takes design elements from the Range Rover Velour, right? Moving along to the headlights over here, we also do have this checkered style LED daytime running lights that also double up as a turning signal. Moving down below, we also do have our headlights over here, of which I must say this vehicle is a very modern, it has a very modern look, and I really do like it. Overall, you know what, I think this is the third Jaecoo product that we're testing. So this being the SHS variant, meaning that it is a plug-in hybrid, right? Moving along to the side, you can tell that these wheels are actually customized for aerodynamics, right? So we have 19-inch alloy rims over here. I'm not really a fan. I prefer like the normal rims, but nonetheless, it's okay. Up top, we also do have a lovely glass sliding panoramic sunroof. Moving along to the side, we do have our gloss black mirrors over here, with of course our turning signals. But the party trick of this vehicle has to be, you know, that famous grab handle over here, or that famous door handle that you use to open the door that pops out, of which I must say I'm really a fan. Side proportions wise, size design wise, this vehicle actually does look like a mini or baby Range Rover. Moving over to the rear, and the Range Rover style design also follows up here at the rear, right? Obviously we do have our Jaecoo lettering over here inside this glass panel. Of course, that holds this lovely light bar over here, but you know, the checkered effect that actually happens in the front also happens back here when you actually, unfortunately I do not have the key, it's inside, but this checkered effect, so the indicators have this little checkered effect, which I must say is a game changer, right? Up top we also do have a lovely spoiler over here with a little partition over here just to split things up and make things a bit more sportier. But obviously this is a plug-in hybrid, so we do have PHEV over here and our J7 designation over here, right? So but obviously let's pop open the boot. Obviously it's electrically operated, and I must say, you know what, you do get a somewhat rather flat floor, right? But the only downside of this boot has to be the fact that I do not get a spare wheel, right? Of which I wish in South Africa I really think you should be getting a spare wheel. So all the battery components are underneath here where you would actually get your spare wheel. So that is a bit of an inconvenience for me. But nonetheless, this boot has many features like a 12-volt socket, a little hook over here to hook your shopping bags, and a little light. But enough about the boot. I feel like the star piece of this vehicle has to be the interior. So let's move on to the interior and let me take you guys through that. Alright, right from the get-go, let's jump into the interior of the J7. And right from the get-go, you're greeted to a lovely tablet over here, which is very massive. So another thing, while we're here on the tablet, let's also dive into how you adjust air conditioning. So for me, I'm really not a fan, so it's a bit hot now. So obviously we need some AC. But nonetheless, this tablet hosts your wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. But not only that, each and every vehicle setting, each and every single thing that you need to do, it's in this tablet. For me personally, I don't feel like it's very interactive. But moving along to the driver's cluster over here, you do get this lovely digital cluster, of course with heads-up display in this variant, of which I must say it's very crisp. I like the resolution and the graphics. It's very nice, very intuitive. I really like it. But obviously, onto the part that's going to be touching the most, right, is the steering wheel. And I must say, the quality of the steering wheel has to be to die for. Jesus, the quality has to die for, right? On the left, you do have your audio buttons. On the right, you do have. On the left, you do have your cruise control buttons. And on your right, it's your audio buttons, right? And then, of course, you might have noticed that this vehicle does not have the gear selector here in the center console. So it is a collar-mounted gear selector over here. So I must say this is quite nifty, even though I'm not really a fan of how maybe when you're maneuvering sometimes the vehicle kind of like stops in neutral and then you need to double tap it again. But once you get used to it, you work your way around it. But overall, the flow and everything else of the interior, lovely. Like I must say, even the quality of materials, like this vehicle, do you really need a Range Rover? Just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. But do you really need something more upmarket? Obviously, we have some light coming down from this giant panoramic sunroof over here, which I must say I do like. Also, we do have this auto dimming mirror and two wireless, a wireless charger, two cup holders. And since this is a plug-in hybrid, you do have a designated button to just say switch from EV to HEV, and of course your mode button and your hazard button. Pop in this, you are greeted to a lovely ventilated box over here, of which it must come in handy, especially now in summer when it's starting to get hot. But nonetheless, let's jump back into the back seats and let's talk about it. Alright, enter the back seats of the J7, and right from the get-go, legroom is very decent, as well as the headroom. Like, you have a loads amount of headroom, and I feel like, you know what, this is such a lovely family vehicle, right? You do have two USB ports, so it has normal USB and a Type-C port back here, of which I must say I really do like. Obviously, we also do have two cup holders over here, of which I must say I really do like. Obviously, also some illumination of, and I've been saying obviously quite a lot, hey? But nonetheless, right, let's continue. Right, sitting three in between, so obviously there's no flow tunnels and stuff like that, right? So sitting three in this vehicle feels quite okay, even though I feel like the middle seat is a bit firm, on the firm side, but nonetheless it's okay. But you know what, I feel like where you'd really want to be is on the driver's seat. So let's move there and see what can we care. Alright, into the driving impressions of the J7, right? And right from the get-go, you might be asking yourself, so see, how does this car drive? And in simple terms, I'd say this is a perfect blend between power and comfort, right? So this vehicle feels very lovely to cruise in, but also knowing the fact that you have the power underneath your right foot, right? So currently I'm driving this vehicle in EV mode, since this is indeed a plug-in hybrid, right? So since it's a plug-in hybrid, you're able to get about an electric range of about 90 k's, and I'd say I've received, after testing it, I've received around about 86 k's, so it's not too far off, right? And then a fuel combined and a whole combined range of around about 1,200 k's, which is absolutely stunning. And I feel like, you know, this vehicle was here to introduce fuel efficiency, right? And out on the open road, so Jaecoo claims 4.9. Out on the open road, since obviously you'll be depleting and recharging your battery using the engine, you will see figures of around about, the most I've seen was 6.1. And for me, I'll take that any day, right? I'd really take that any day. But nonetheless, man, you know what, this is such a lovely vehicle to live with. But let me just illustrate it on how lovely it is. Also the power, so you also do have a designated HEV button over here, right? So to switch from electric to HEV. So let me just pop that into HEV, and you know, this thing just scrambles off. It's so weird. It really scrambles off, and yeah, man, like, I had to grab onto my thingy, to my tripod over there, a second. But now that we're done, let's pop this back into HEV mode. Then the whole vehicle becomes very quiet, and I feel like for me, this is what I really appreciate about living with an HEV, right? And it's because you know what, you can have best of both worlds, and for me, I'll take that any day. Obviously, if you have the charging port to charge it at home, but obviously this also comes with DC fast charging, so you can charge it at your local shops or malls or whatever. So that would be quite dope, right? But if there's anything that I really didn't appreciate about this vehicle, it has to be the fact that I couldn't find a button to actually turn off this driver monitoring system. It's so annoying, it's very intrusive. Each and every time, if I'm observing at my mirrors and stuff like that, and I want to look elsewhere, it's gonna say I'm distracted. And the moment it says I'm distracted, it also now, about 2 after 3 notifications, it starts making this loud beep, of which I'm really not a fan of. Another thing is an indicator. The indicator is a bit, I'm not a fan of that, but that you can turn off, right? But overall, I'm really impressed with how this vehicle drives. But for 689,000 rand, you know, I feel like you're getting quite a lot of car, but I feel like now it's also stepping into another territory, right? I think you could get as a base spec, what do you call this? A base spec T-Roc for this price. I think so. Yes. Yes. I think you. So you see what I mean? Oh no, the driver is not blind spot monitoring. But I'll just illustrate it just now for you guys, right? But nonetheless, man. So I'm currently averaging a fuel consumption of 3.8 liters, and I've seen it go down to about 2.4 liters, which is absolutely absurd. And you actually ask yourself, is this really real? So you might be wondering, okay, I hear you talking about fuel consumption and stuff like that, but what's the power like? So under the hood you have a 1.5 liter turbo engine, an electric motor that puts up 255 kilowatts and 524 newton meters of torque. Does it feel like 255? No. It doesn't feel like 255, but it certainly does feel quick. It certainly does feel quick. Since this is what you call this, is front wheel drive. Another downside of it is the fact that each and every time you pull off from a light and you slam the pedal, right? It's gonna light up the front wheels. Oh, it lights up the front wheels so easy. And it's fun at first, but obviously, which means that you're going to be changing quite a lot of tires as you move along, right? But nonetheless, man, I'm really impressed with this vehicle. Obviously, with that 1 million kilometer service plan that you get from Omoda, Jaecoo and Chery products, obviously that in itself is something else, you know. But nonetheless, I'm CJ from 6 Gear Wheels, and I'll catch you guys with the next one.